Hi, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at building a rack for snare drums. Not much more to say, very simple. Whole array of snare drums. You can randomize snare drums, you can EQ them, compress them, whatever. As I say, not too difficult to put together. I think we'll just get straight into it. I'll show you how the rack works and then finally how you can build this rack for your music if you're interested. Okay, so the rack is made up of a few elements. Let's just turn this down for a second. We have the DS snare, which I believe all of these rack elements are available standard and suite, so you can build this using those versions of Ableton Live. 12 I'm using here. So we have the snare, we have an EQ3, we have a drum bus and a compressor. That's everything we have. The rack is very simple in its use. You have tune here. You can color it. Reset that. You can adjust the tone. Various different parameters. You can crunch. You have different types of filter. All coming from here. We're effectively linked to these controls here. The macros are linked, so we can have control over the DS snare here. We can filter, adjust decay. Then we have control over the drum bus here with the different types of drive. Levels of drive, and our EQ here in the center. This is the EQ3. Here we go here. So we can control what kind of tone we want. Bassy tone, more sort of noise. Very simple controls. And then we have here where we want to increase our high frequency. These two are related, these two, so we can set a frequency here which we want to increase or decrease here, and then we have compression, which we'll come to, and finally some volume. And as I mentioned in the intro, we can just randomize these. Some are not randomized. Here, the compression, I'll go through them. The tuning is not randomized, so you can set your tuning. The decay is not randomized. The volume is not randomized. The compression is not randomized. And the EQ settings here are not randomized either. So when we do this, they will stay the same, but the others will all change around them. So you can tweak around, get the snares, sample them, use them in your music, or just use them as is in the rack. What else? Let's say, yeah, what you heard on the intro as well, if you're interested, this one here is I built in the last video I made, which was one for creating your own kick drums. I'll leave a link up here now, and one in the description if you want to know how to build a rack to make kick drums. That's also available. And as I say, not so much more to say. Very simple thing, but I think it's quite useful. Okay, let's have a look then how it's put together. You'll need an instrument rack. First of all, you'll find that in instrument racks. Just drop it onto a MIDI channel. I've kept my original names. These are my names. You can right click and rename them yourselves here if you want to choose different names or use my names. It's your choice. We'll open these all up because we're going to use all 16. What we'll do first is we'll drop the elements in that we need, then we'll set them up, and finally we'll do the mapping and the constraints that are needed. So the first thing we're going to need is the DS snare, which is here. Then the EQ3, which is then our audio effects. Here we go. Drum bus. Where are you hiding? There. And then finally a compressor here at the end of the rack. Now we'll just go through this very quickly and set up a few things. So I set this on the DS Snare, there's nothing to do, we'll map all of these. On the EQ3, I set the low frequency to 200. This we will map. These will map as well. On the drive bus, we will map a lot of these things. So there's also nothing to do here. On the compressor, I made a few settings. First of all, I put the automatic makeup on. This increases the gain as we pull the threshold down. I put the peak on here. It's a little bit more responsive for drum sounds. I set the knee to 4 and the ratio to 3. I say these are my specific settings. You can set this up differently, of course. Then I had the attack at 15 milliseconds and the release I set at 150 here. Okay, so those are the settings for the compressor. Now we just need to go through and do some mapping here. So we enter our mapping here. We'll map the tune here from the DS Snare to the tune here. Let's try that again. We have the color here, the tone here, the impact, which is the drum bus transient here. We'll put that here. Then we have the crunch, which is the drum bus crunch here. The filter type comes from the DS Snare. The damping frequency comes from the drum bus here. This is this damp. The snare decay is here in the DS Snare. Then we have the drive type, which is this selection here. The drive level here. Our EQ settings, gain low, mid, and high. And then our frequency gain high, this one here, it's here. Then we have the threshold here of the compressor, which we'll map here. And finally we have the volume, which is the drum bus output gain here. Let's map that there. Okay, so that's everything mapped. I'll put up a screenshot here of the constraints you need to put in. You need to change these values. I'll put up the screenshot, and once you've got those in, everything should be fine. Just to say, be careful with things like volume and things. Always say be careful of those. And yeah, that's it. I'll see you in a second then. Okay, so there weren't so many in this build here. Let's see if the rack works. And come out of the mapping now. We'll put, just before we go into that, you save the rack key, you click on this icon, that will save it into your user library, and it will end up here in, let's just close these so I can show you the path. In presets, instruments, instrument rack, you'll find it in there, and then you can just drag it and drop it into any project. If you want to make snapshots of the particular macro settings, you find a snare drum sound you like, then you can set the macros as you want and then click new here, and a new macro or a new snapshot will be created here, macro variation. You then need to resave the rack, otherwise they will be lost if you close the project. So you need to resave the rack again once you've generated these. Okay, let's try it out, see if everything works. Let's try the bass, try the intro. And as I say, Some of these are not mapped. I went through them before, but I'll go through them again. This one here, tune is excluded. The snare decay is excluded. The volume is excluded. The compression excluded. And these three here for the EQs, those three are all excluded as well. So that means you can randomize here. Turn that down a little. Randomize here and then make these adjustments. If you want a more hollow sound to your snare, just drop the mids. More sort of noisy, drop your lows. Anyway, you can play around, find whatever kind of snare sound you like. And as always, I hope this video has been useful for you and you can make use of this in your music. Okay, thank you and take care.